So there's several unanswered questions and unresolved issues. Let's start to tackle those. So the main question surrounding the cistern, it was on top of the roof. You couldn't just, like, as a person staying there, just go up on the roof and get into the cistern. You had to have like a pass card or a passcode of some sort, and then there was like a stairway to the roof, and then you had to climb the ladder to the tank, and you'd have to push that off, then get in it, and then when they found her, that was closed. So she would have had to then pull it back into place from inside the water tank on like a little ladder. And so for me, that is a stretch. Without drugs being involved or some kind of psychotic break or some catalyst, like, to get in there, first of all, to get up there, first of all, then to even, like, I've been on roofs of buildings a million times. I don't even think I would think to go up in the water tank. You know, they were saying that's accidental drowning, like she went in there to swim or something. It's like, no. No. Then to shut it over your head, like, even if you weren't someone that's scared of the dark or anything, like, that's, I don't know, I just really can't wrap my mind around someone climbing in there, getting naked. And then when did she get naked? Did she get naked, throw her clothes in, and then go in? Because then she would have to be getting naked at some point. There is a YouTuber, his name is Lord and Arts. I will link his channel. He talks a lot about the CCTV footage. He questions, and you could just watch his video, but some of his questions are like, why was it even released? Because that's not a normal practice for someone at that point who was just considered missing. He also feels like it was manipulated, that there's some weird things with the timestamping. I'm not going to even get into all that because it's very in-depth, but, you know, go watch his videos, and you can see that something seems to be off with the video. In his research, he's found that, you know, some people think that she wasn't making weird gestures, like she wasn't doing something odd, that she was actually, like, just kind of speaking with her hands and, like, being playful with another person. I really encourage you to watch his video on that part of it because it really goes in depth on this issue. But it just goes to show that there's just a lot surrounding that videotape that just does not seem right. So going back around, like, with the autopsy and that investigation, it gave an answer as to how or why she died. Okay, whether you accept that or not. But again, there's no explanation of how she got into the tank to begin with. Like, they were saying the alarms worked. They were saying that there was, like, you know, the pass card thing, like, it wasn't used. There is sort of like a fire escape entrance, like you would be going out onto the fire escape and then be going up over the building to get onto the roof. Like, that's not passcode protected or anything. Like, she could have done that. My challenge with that is just, you would think you would see, like, somebody would have noticed, even if they, you know, because it's the Cecil Hotel, even if they didn't think it was weird, you think once they were looking for her, you know, because it wasn't in short order that they were saying that she was missing, you would think someone would be like, oh yeah, and she's wearing a bright red sweatshirt. Like, wouldn't you notice if someone was, like, climbing up to the roof through the fire escape? So the next thing I want to talk about are some of the mental health topics that are brought up surrounding this case. So Elisa was diagnosed, and she was actually being medicated for bipolar disorder and depression. She had a blog. She blogged openly and honestly about her struggle with social anxiety and her mental health issues. So this wasn't a secret, you know, at least not to her family, and, you know, she had a blog, so it was put out there that, you know, she did have these mental health challenges, and that she was taking medication for them. She was prescribed several medications: Wellbutrin, Seroquel, Effexor, I think it's called, and Lamictal, to treat her various mental health disorders. Her family, although she was, you know, obviously open about it, her family knew about it, but in terms of the family, they kept it a secret as far as to other people. She had had no suicide attempts that were reported, or suicide attempts that, you know, anybody had to intervene, hospital trips, things like that. Although there was a report that she had gone missing briefly once before. What that was about, what the circumstances were, I couldn't find that. In mid-2010, she started a blog, and it was named Ether Fields, and it was on Blogspot, which is like, you know, an open blogging platform. So over the next 2 years, she posted pictures of models and fashionable clothing, accounts of her life, and she talked a lot about her struggle with mental illness. In January of 2012, she said that she relapsed at the start of her like school term, and then she had to like drop classes because of it. And she, you know, she explained that because of this, she felt like lost. She felt like she didn't have direction. I mean, in general, young people going to college, like, that can happen in general. And then if you have mental health related issues, you know, it's just, it's really difficult to transition from, you know, sort of high school, and, you know, you're not of age yet. You have family around, you know, you have your teachers around. Like, it's a very tight, close environment that you're in, and then it's almost like, oh, you're 18, you're going to college, like, later. All of a sudden, you're 18, and you're just like, oh, I get everything. It's like, I'm 41, and there's so much about life that I don't understand, and there's so much I still get overwhelmed with, and I'm trying to navigate. So to expect that you're, like, 18 and doing that is just crazy. Like, to expect 18-year-olds, or even at her age, 21, she's going to struggle. And having mental illness, it just kind of makes that struggle more apparent. So it's not unusual for her to be, you know, like, that wouldn't seem unusual to me that she would be struggling with that. And the fact that she was communicating via her blog, the fact that she was speaking it out loud, is actually extremely healthy. So, you know, if there is situations where you're feeling a particular way, you're feeling sad, depressed, overwhelmed, what have you, even if you don't feel like you have anybody to talk to, just writing it down, sending a text to yourself, sending an email to yourself, like, just getting it out of you into the atmosphere so that you can sort of make sense of it a little bit, or just give yourself the permission that it's out there, let's put it to the side and move forward. That can be very therapeutic, and just in and of itself. In that post where she's explaining, like, how she's feeling about certain things, that she's just struggling with, like, what's the point of her life, like, what's she going to do, she titled that post, "You're Always Haunted by the Idea You're Wasting Your Life." And it's a quote from a novelist named Chuck Palahniuk. I'm not positive how to say that. But that quote was used as her epigraph. Elisa's parents filed a wrongful death suit, claiming that the hotel failed to inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented an unreasonable risk of danger to their daughter as well as other guests. And they were seeking out burial costs as well as an unspecified or undisclosed amount of money as well, damages. The hotel argued that it could not have reasonably foreseen that she would get into the water tank, and since it remained, like, since they didn't understand how she even got in there, they couldn't really prove or show that the hotel should have been liable for it. And so in 2015, that lawsuit was dismissed. So there are so many theories. I'm going to go over 8 theories that are floating around just to touch base on them and talk about them. And then I'm going to go through some of my theories or thoughts about the case. So one of the theories you can find is that this was part of some elevator game. I didn't really research much about it because I just think it's silly. But I guess there's this game where you, like, push different buttons, and then if you show up on one, I don't know, floor, and then, like, a ghost comes and takes you. I don't know. You'll have to look that up, because that whole thing was silly, so I wasn't going to get into that. Another theory is that there was a tuberculosis outbreak in the water. And so that they created this whole situation to cover that up. And it's something like, if you look up what the treatment would be for the tuberculosis outbreak, it's called Lam Elisa. So I guess they wanted to saturate the internet with this Elisa Lam thing so that you wouldn't notice that. I don't know anything about that. You'd have to look that up. Again, are there cover-ups on things? Sure. I think that's a little much. It's a lot to do to cover up a tuberculosis outbreak, but I don't know. So you'd have to look at that. Another theory is that she was experiencing a mental health break and that she voluntarily climbed into that tank and then she drowned. I don't think that this is one that should be 100% discounted. Simply because if you take for face value that she was in there, she was not wearing the clothes, she would have had to pull the lid in on herself, or somebody would have had to do it. And that the toxicology report came back. Again, there wasn't enough to show what was in her blood, so potentially she wasn't taking her medication, and with bipolar that can trigger a psychotic break. So I don't, in my estimation, that can't be ruled out completely as a potential theory. The fourth theory was that she was on drugs of some kind, whether she took those voluntarily or not. Although no drugs were really found in her system, but again, you going back to that toxicology report, she didn't have a lot of blood in her body when she was found. So whether that could be proven or not, I'm not really clear on that. Again, I don't think this is 100% something to put off the table as well either. Obviously, the fifth theory is that this was a suicide. It's an odd way for someone to commit suicide. It's, to me, slightly elaborate. Why she would even think to go into the water tank, I'm not sure. Again, you know, I always stress in my videos when you're talking about mental health issues, though, we can't always look at it from a rational, why would she choose a water tower? Why wouldn't she just take drugs and go to sleep? Why wouldn't she just, but when you're really thinking about it, if someone is committing suicide, if someone is having some type of psychotic break, they're obviously not rational. So I try to look beyond and around the rational part of things, because that's not where their mindset would be. The next theory is that she was murdered by a hotel staff member. I don't feel like this is something that should be discounted. She got in there some way. She got up there some way. To me, I don't feel like this has ever been fully explored. That's just in my estimation. The seventh theory is that it was something paranormal, some type of possession, some kind of ghost from the Cecil Hotel. I'm not going to sit and say that I don't believe in ghosts at all or paranormal activity, but I'm not one to jump straight in no matter what the situation. I'm always one to eliminate what would be more obvious first before pulling in, sort of some type of possession, spiritual. Do I think that is completely out of the realm of things that could happen? No. But based on the theories, there's a lot before that would have to be checked off my list before that would be something I would even explore. But again, there's tons of videos about this. There's tons of videos about the theories. If you're interested in any one of these theories and you want to know more about them, I really encourage you to research that. And then the last theory is that it was somehow connected with that movie from 2005 called Dark Water. Again, I didn't see the movie. I plan to look it up. So I can't speak too much on what the connection is, what the connection might be, or why it would be connected. If it was some type of copycat thing, I'm not sure. So that's another thing that you might want to explore. So those are just the main, and there's other theories too. So there's already 8 theories that are floating out there as to how this happened. So I just want to stress that I do feel like there's way more to be explored before we start going the route of paranormal or elevator games or anything like that. So I just want to conclude this video with sort of my thoughts and my theories. I wrote them all down, so if I'm looking down at my paper. So I'm just going to put together points of what I'm thinking, and I really encourage you, please down in the comments, write to me what you're thinking, write to me what you think of the theories, which one or ones, because it could be multiple, do you think is more viable, makes most sense with what we know. I mean, there are such huge holes that when you're dealing with a case like this, a mystery like this, that's the one thing. It's like sometimes there's so many holes that there's several different theories that could fit. But one hole filled here and there makes those off the table. So since there's so much we don't know, there's a lot of theories that need to be considered. Some of my theories and thoughts about this case are, I do feel like some of these theories are a bit out there. I think when things happen like this mysteries, especially like strange mysteries, and you have the videotape with, you know, what seems to be her like strange behaviors and hand motions, I think because it's not common, people really search for an equally uncommon explanation to make it fit. I think in general, if there's disappearances or off-the-wall murders or what have you, people are always trying to fit that into sort of a box. So it's like, I need to make this make sense so then I can also show that this isn't something that could potentially happen to me. We never want to believe that super horrible things can happen to good people, and we certainly don't want to believe that horrible or mysterious type things can happen to people for seemingly no reason. We always want to attach reason to it. I think it helps people feel better. Personally, I do not think her death was a suicide. I've had a lot of experience with suicide, even suicidal tendencies. You can look this up in terms of the ways that women specifically commit suicide. This doesn't necessarily fit for me, and especially because before I was saying how she was understanding that she had mental health issues, she was medicated, and she was openly speaking about it through her blog. So it just doesn't seem to fit with someone who would have suicidal tendencies or thoughts. I'm not saying that, you know, someone can't speak about it openly and then still go and do it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is it was almost like she was trying to work through it. She wasn't hiding it. She wasn't giving away her stuff. You know, she wasn't doing any of those sort of things. So for me, suicide's off the table. I think she probably did not know the reputation of the hotel she chose. That was not on her list of places that she was supposed to be. That was not on her list of places she was going to stay. That just sort of happened. And so, you know, she's from Canada. She's not going to really necessarily know about the Cecil Hotel. I think just based on her culture, based on reading things, I think she could have been fairly sheltered. And maybe she was exploring her life a little bit. And then, you know, bipolar is super strong. It can affect you in so many ways. And I think maybe she could have been exploring. Maybe she wasn't taking her medication properly. Maybe she wasn't sleeping properly. All those things can really sort of factor in. And just, you know, her mind could have been hazy in terms of the best decision making. I think that people underestimate how impulsive people with bipolar can be. I also think they underestimate their level of rationality. It's not unusual for people with bipolar to have delusions, to have psychotic breaks, to have sort of paranoid behavior. And because people had reported prior to her going missing that she was like displaying odd behavior, to me, that would have been a red flag. And unfortunately, she wasn't around friends and family who knew her well enough to realize that that's maybe something that says something's off. I think potentially she could have been assaulted, and that could have triggered some type of break. Maybe she went into that water tower because she was up there with somebody, something happened, she got fearful, maybe that's why she was naked, she got into there, and then maybe they threw her clothes and her stuff in there and then shut the lid on that. I'm obviously, we don't know, but I don't see that as a completely unfeasible scenario. And my last point is that to build on that, I think she could have been assaulted by somebody that worked in the hotel. They would have had knowledge of the cistern. They would have had access. If the footage was manipulated in any way, they would have been able to do that. I think because she had to like move rooms, that maybe someone in the hotel helped her to move rooms, then knowing that she was alone. You know, if she was acting a certain way, she did say that she had social anxiety. She did say, you know, she was known to be a shy person. I think someone could have picked up on that very easily, understood that she was there from another country. You know, maybe they thought like she wouldn't even be found or at all, or if she was, like, it wouldn't have, you know, if that video hadn't been released, this would not have been the huge story that it was. So, you know, potentially this could have been something that completely went under the radar in general. Even though if someone did do something with her, you know, they haven't been connected with it, so they still essentially got away with it. But at any rate, I think that could have explained partially why the elevator doors didn't shut, because there was somebody standing outside of them. If they worked there, they would have known where the cameras were, and they would have known where the sensors were to keep the doors open. Again, go see Lord and Arts' video on that, because that's a whole thing with what button she was pushing, if she was pushing the open door button. Like, there's a whole thing, so you just need to watch that. So, at any rate, those are my thoughts. Those are my theories. Like I said, this is the last video in the series about the Cecil Hotel. So, please share your comments, your thoughts. You know, what do you think about this? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. My next video will be on H.H. Holmes. That's definitely going to be a two-parter, because that is a whole nother level. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.